So hi everyone, and thanks very much for having me today. So I'd like to start with asking you to imagine that you live here. You're in Kenya or Uganda. You have a small farm of a few acres, about 20 miles away from the nearest town. You have 5 kids, and you live on less than $2 a day, which you earn by selling tea to your local cooperative, or maybe selling maize and vegetables at the market over the weekend. You don't have access to the internet, and you see an agronomist maybe once every few months if you're lucky, and an agrovet when you go into town to buy your supplies. And then this happens. Your maize is attacked by a pest that you've never seen before. So what do? You can't just Google it. Maybe you'll come up with a great innovation and you'll deal with this. Or maybe your crop will fail because of this new pest. And sadly, that's the reality for about 500 million small-scale farmers around the world. And they're important because they produce food for 70% of the world's population. But a third of this is actually lost at producer level because of easily solved problems, costing the economy $33 billion each year. Well, these problems aren't actually that hard they're not super challenging problems. The fact is that these farmers live in isolation, and 90% of them don't have access to the internet. So they don't have access to the right solutions at the right time. And that's something that we wanted to challenge, because we knew that there were great ideas out there, that farmers had come up with great ways of dealing with these problems with the resources that were available to them. They had great innovations. So we just needed to connect these farmers with the technology that would be available to them. So that's where WeFarm came in. We developed a knowledge-sharing platform that enabled these farmers to share farming advice and tips using a basic feature phone and SMS. And to illustrate this, I'll tell you about Victor and Doris. So Victor's a tea farmer in Kenya. And he woke up one morning to find that his tea farm was being attacked by a pest he'd never seen before. So he sent a free SMS to the WeFarm number. WeFarm's smart crowdsourcing technology was then able to share his question with other users that would be most likely to have the answer to his question. In this situation, it was Doris, a tea farmer in Uganda who's been dealing with the same problem for over 20 years. So who better than Doris to answer Victor's question? She replies, and then Victor, miles away and without any internet connection, was able to receive an answer to his question within minutes. We've already connected around 550,000 Dorises and Victors around Kenya and Uganda since we launched in 2015. And these farmers have shared nearly 60 million messages via SMS. They're not just signing up, they're actually actively engaging with the platform. And in fact, our monthly active user rates are about 38%, and our retention rate is 90%. So it means that we're providing a real value for these farmers. And that's important because as a social business, our mission is to help smallholder farmers improve their livelihoods through peer-sourced information. So it's important for us to know how much these farmers are using it, when do they ask questions, how much do they answer questions. And then we also look at great case studies. I mentioned Doris and Victor, but we also have Kefa. He keeps chickens, and he found that his chickens were dying for some unknown disease. He didn't know what to do. But luckily, someone on WeFarm did. And thanks to the advice that they shared, Kefa was able to save half of his chickens. Now, that might not mean very much to you and I, but to Kefa, that meant he could feed his kids for the next week. And we also have Michael, who's a tea farmer who learned how to nearly improve the amount of tea he harvested each month, thanks to other farmers' advice on WeFarm. Or John, a tea farmer who learned how to grow cabbages, so he could diversify his income and sell them at the weekend. So now he could hire another farmhand and send his kids to school. So these are all examples of why we're doing it and why farmers are using WeFarm. But we also wanted to look at how they were using it. So we did a content analysis of our data and found that the most discussed issues relate to coping with pests and disease, animal husbandry, building resilience to climate change, and accessing markets. So they're using very simple technology, just a mobile phone, to deal with some of farming's most common questions. And we wanted to make it very easy for farmers to use. So it's a simple technology for them. All they need is an SMS, a basic feature phone, not a smartphone. They don't need to leave their farms. They don't need to spend any money. All they have to do is send an SMS. But behind the scenes, we're using some really clever tech to get the questions to the right people at the right time. We're using machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence to ensure that the questions go to the right responders. When a farmer signs up to WeFarm, we get profile information such as their age, their gender, their location, and their crop. So that when they ask a question, the system will analyze that and look at the keywords. So for example, if it's a question about coffee, the system will look for all the users that have signed up as coffee farmers, and then it will also look at all the responders that have contributed content on coffee before. And then it will then narrow it down on location, gender, etc., if relevant. And our machine learning and our tech is getting more and more clever as we grow. So that's what we spent the first 3 years doing. We built the network, we connected these farmers to build the world's largest farmer-to-farmer digital network. But we don't want to stop there. We've connected farmers to farmers, we've connected farmers to information, and now we want to create a digital ecosystem for global agriculture with farmers at the center. So we want to connect farmers to loans, we want to connect farmers to markets, we want to connect farmers to buyers, and we want to use the information and the data that we're receiving to optimize and improve global supply chains around the world. Luckily, that's what our users and farmers want too. Over 60% of our content includes mentions of products or potential products. The top two of which are inputs, such as pesticides, fertilizers, seeds, and access to loans. Farmers are also keen to buy and sell produce. Nearly 2.5% of our content is farmers directly asking where to buy and sell things. And that's 2% more than Google's 0.5%. So we're going to build an ecosystem and a marketplace around our network and our farmers. But we're also going to improve our technology and machine learning tools so we can start to track problems like the armyworms I mentioned before. This is a graph that signals the increase in frequency in questions relating to armyworms over a period of time. So if we dig deeper into this and start identifying and predicting trends as they arise, we can start to build early warning systems and alerts for governments, NGOs, and businesses who buy from these farmers. So what we're doing really differently and our value added is that everything comes from the farmer, and it's in analyzing the content that we have to get it to the right people at the right time. There are other services out there. There's some organizations in Kenya that are doing digital extension services. An organization called iShamba, for example, that allows farmers to text in questions, and they'll be connected to agronomists. They've also got farmer call lines and helplines. There's an organization that started in West Africa called Isoko, and what they do is they send weather information and market prices to farmers by SMS. Mobile financial services is a big one. Farmers need capital, they need insurance. And so organizations are tackling this by developing new credit rating systems and connecting farmers to mobile loans or mobile money. And the last one, some of you may have heard of M-Pesa. It's mobile money, but it's not directly related to agriculture, but of course it's helped these smallholder farmers because now they can pay for things and receive payment using their mobile phones. They don't have to traipse away 20 miles down the road to get to their nearest bank. So these are examples of solutions out there. What makes us different is that we're not producing any content and giving it to farmers. It's all farmer-driven. And that's what makes us so unique. No one else is capturing these insights because no one else is connecting these farmers at that level of the supply chain. It also means that it's hugely scalable. We can go into any countries. At the moment, we're in Kenya and Uganda, but we want to go into India, develop into West Africa, and so on. It also means that we can be available on multiple languages. Farmers can use it in their own local languages. They don't need to just use English. And it also means that we're providing farmers with quality of content. They don't have to wait for the information to come to them. They're asking for it, and they're getting tailor-made answers that they need. And that all helps to create a high level of trust and credibility, a very trusting network and a sticky network around which we can then add on extra services. It also means that we can provide organizations and businesses with some value added because we can tell them exactly what's happening at that level of the supply chain, at the unconnected level of the supply chain. What are the farmers' problems? What are they talking about? What do they need? So for example, we can help a commodity trader get better forecasts, or we can help an importer understand what's happening at that ground level of their supply chain. We can help an input provider better understand their clients. We can help a credit rating agent or a financial institution get new clients. And these are all examples of what we can do with the data that we're having. And as I mentioned before, we can also help NGOs and international institutions better allocate resources to prevent outbreaks of pests and disease because they understand early enough what's going on there. And I just want to end with an example of an organization that I was speaking to recently. They're a fruit company that buy mangoes from a cooperative in Uganda. They then sell into Waitrose, Planet Organic, and Holland & Barrett in the UK. And for over 2 months, they couldn't put their products in store. And that was because a pest had wiped out production of mangoes in Uganda. And the company said to me that actually they could have helped. They had the means to support the farmers, but the problem was it was too late by the time they found out. And that's exactly what we want to stop. We want to ensure that farmers get the right information at the right time to reduce the problems that they face and to improve productivity and security of supply, and to make sure that we can improve resilience and productivity across the whole value chains. So now I hope that if you were one of these farmers at the start of my talk, you'd feel a little bit more connected. So thank you very much.